So involvement is about having these meaningful opportunities to connect with others and really to make a contribution to the community. We are tribal beings, social beings. We need each other in so many ways. And the involvement really gets to the heart of that and meeting our needs for connection and for mattering. We're going to talk about the science of mattering and for just contributing to our tribe. When we lost the kids in Mount Vernon to suicide and we started this work, we really wanted to give that clear message that every person mattered, that we all have this right to thrive and to be connected and to have ways to contribute in ways that make us feel good about ourselves. And so we started a campaign, a normative campaign called You Matter, We Need You, and you'll hear a bit about that. But it really was everything from T-shirts, and the staff wore them on Wednesdays, the kids could wear them, and we had You Matter, We Need You assemblies, we had You Matter, We Need You magnets on all the lockers, and just a lot of messaging to remind students that each person mattered as a part of our community and that we needed them to contribute what only they had to contribute. I've grown to believe, we still do a lot of You Matter, We Need You programming, and I think I've grown to believe in this work that the best, most powerful type of normative campaign is always going to be fueled by the conversation with the student body, with the listening, right? Asking those questions and listening and seeing what comes up for them and letting them kind of lead the way forward. So it's just a side note on that. But like I said, we are actually hardwired for connection, and now we know because we can map our brains. Back. You're going the other. There we go. Thank you. And that Need Some Love is actually an example of a school, kids within a school, putting that up, wanting to reach their classmates and just say, some said want some love, need a hug, all of this. So really I've seen some great things of students taking the lead and doing this sort of connection programming. But we are hardwired. We actually now know that the same part of the brain that gets lit up when we're experiencing physical pain actually gets lit up when we are experiencing social exclusion. Or loneliness, even in that same brain center. And so say I have a ball and I come in and I'm tossing the ball around and I'm like, hey, Sam, catch. And so Sam and I throwing the ball back and forth, and I see Barb and I'm like, oh, here, Barb, catch. So Sam and I throw, Barb and I throw, Sam and I throw, Barb and I throw. And then Sam and I just decided to throw this ball back and forth. And we're just looking at each other throwing a ball. Barb's pain centers in her brain, it wouldn't take but 2 or 3 throws where she'd be like, wait, what? I'm part of that. She would light up because she's being excluded as if she was experiencing physical pain. And that can be something, we have a bit of a relationship. Barb and Sam had never met before today. And it's something as random as throwing a ball. So imagine the impact when we have, especially adolescents or in developmentally, when those peer relationships become so important, and then someone's excluded from the lunch table, or someone's excluded from even younger ages, from the playground activities. Imagine the impact on that child's brain. And so it's very real what we experience when we experience exclusion and a lack of connection. I wanted to dedicate at least one slide to this. It's really a special issue, but that issue of technology, because when I say we're wired for connection, we're living in a day where we're all wired via technology, and it is so important to be giving parents, and even to us as educators, giving ourselves this message that monitoring a child or a teen's phone or use of technology is not an unacceptable invasion of privacy. It's a caring and loving act to keep kids safe and to help them grow in their ability to learn to handle more and more so that they can be responsible digital citizens of the world. But I have so many parents who think that, oh, I couldn't do that. I couldn't look at what's going on in my kid's phone. That would be an invasion of privacy. And when you put it in the context of, okay, so would you just take your kid and drop them off in the middle of LA and drive away? Or would you just take your kid and let them just, oh, that porn shop looks interesting, go check it out. Like, we really have to do some education for parents because I think that they've been brainwashed in a bit, some of it by kids who love to push boundaries anyway, that that's an invasion of privacy. And so we do a lot on encouraging mobile device agreements. This is one that we use with the school. We have a template. And that along with that privilege comes responsibility. And so it gives parents the ability to have a written document. We do it in Word so they can make it their own. But what are those expectations? You expect that when I call you, you're going to answer. If by chance you miss the call for whatever reason, you're going to return the call as soon as possible. We're going to have no phones at dinner. You won't have a phone at a school event or a church event, whatever that looks like. Not in your room every night. We're going to park all the technology at this general docking station by 9 o'clock or whatever that looks like for that family or situation. But it really, I think, is an important issue that I just want to mention. And it goes beyond phones. But through the phones and through the iPads and through just that instant access, kids are being exposed to stuff at a younger and younger age. And we knew this, just what our work at NRI and the work we were doing with the National Association of School Psychologists. How many of you are familiar with the series 13 Reasons Why? Is educated about, just over half of you. We saw that uptick. So it's a series about a teen who took her life by suicide, and before she did, she recorded 13 messages to people about why they were to blame, were responsible for her taking her life. But it was very graphic. It showed her in the tub and the blood in the tub, and it did so many things not responsibly. I think it was well intentioned by the Hollywood or the groups that put it together. But we were already seeing this massive uptick in suicide ideations, but actual attempts across the country. Like we were just trying to find our way forward. And then the first study came out, and they found that statistically there was nearly a 30% increase in suicide attempts in our kids, ages 10 to 17, in the month following the release. And I wouldn't have guessed 30%. I just knew that we were trying to put out fires like crazy, and we were getting contacted by schools and by churches and by families in these communities across the country. So we knew that it was doing a lot of damage. So that's just an example of, these can be life and death situations. And so we really need to stay on top of this with our kids. On a happier note, there's actually a science of mattering. This is amazing to me. There's some kind of soft things that sound soft and fuzzy, kind of granola Colorado-ish, like Paula would be. And gratitude might be one, mattering might be one, and we have sciences behind them. And so the science of mattering was really pretty predominant into the early 80s. Then it fell off, and in the last 7 years or so, we've had this uptick in more of this research. And there's a 5-question scale of mattering. This is one of the questions: how important do you feel you are to other people? But mattering is that sense that we are significant and that other people actively care about what happens to us. It's negatively associated, meaning that when people have a less of a sense of mattering, there's an increase in alienation, an increase in a report of loneliness, social anxiety, and suicide ideation and suicides. So it is central. Could you back up one, please, Barb? Again, good thing we're resilient to handle this technology setup today, but we got it. I really appreciate lived experience. I think there's so much to learn from that. And here's a statement by a former suicidal teen. And she talks, one, about these anchors that are important to her, the people or things that she cares deeply about, her parents, her pets, her therapists, her friends. And then she goes on to say, I am not yet at a place where I can honestly say that I love and accept myself, but I know that I have value in this world, and that is enough for me to want to live. That's that sense of mattering. So she's saying, I know I'm not there, and there's things that help stabilize me and anchor me, and I'm still working on that whole loving me thing, but for now I know that I have value. I know I matter. I matter in this world. I have value in this world. And it literally is a lifeline. And unfortunately, I'm in a line of business and where it's a reality of my work, but it's also just this profound privilege to see how what we're talking about today is certainly about strengthening kids, but it many, many times is about saving the lives of kids and others as well. This work goes, as we've mentioned a couple times, well beyond children. But in the classroom, mattering is positively related to academic success. As the sense of mattering goes up, we have less behaviors, less juvenile delinquency, and then a lot of risk factors go down. So we have reductions in teen pregnancy, reductions in substance use. And I really love this quote. Here's another one you might just want to slap up on your cubicle or office and keep it in front of you. But Brene Brown, it's actually what her grandmother said once to her. We don't have to do it all alone. We were never meant to. And I think that's just a really beautiful reminder of all the ways that we need each other in so many ways. So the work that is to be done here in the involvement piece largely is about catching kids doing good things, supporting those efforts, expanding those efforts, celebrating what they're already doing, all of those natural ways that they exhibit connection and mattering and contribution. I was working with an Indiana school, and they were talking about it was a group of counselors and teachers, some administrators, and they were talking about this really great kid, and she at that time was a sophomore in high school. And when she was in 9th grade, they said, she's just a quiet kid, really kind of introverted, doesn't do a lot of clubs and not involved that way. And in some ways, she might be a kid you worry about a bit, but in other ways not at all, that, type of a student. My youngest daughter kind of fits that profile, so I have a piece of heart around that, the way they were describing this kid, and they said she did the coolest thing, and she just took it on her own, that on Valentine's Day, she actually cut out and made Valentines for every person in the school, and she wrote them out and designed them and put them, I think she put them all on the lockers, through the school. And then by the time the second year came about, she was going to do it again, and other students were coming up to her and saying, hey, that was fun. Can we do that? That was really cool. That's awesome you did that. And so they named themselves SMAD, Students Making a Difference. And they started a thing, right? This is how things get started. And as they're telling me this story, and they really were just kind of focused on, this was a really cool thing for this girl. So this is her sense of contribution. I was like, wait, that. Like, how could you grow that? Like, you become the school district with a heart. You start making a big thing out of every Valentine's Day. You start to help use that to define the culture and the identity of the school. You have those high school students who go and mentor the elementary students. So they're all cutting out and making Valentines together. What might that look like in the middle school? Like, just taking a little thing that you just need to step back and go, wait, that has some juice, right? You kind of know when you see something, and oftentimes it's just an individual following their own passion, but we can get better at identifying those and then really supporting them and not taking them over as the adults outside in, but supporting the kids in that. I mentioned the You Matter, We Need You. You'll see aside when Kristen talks on vision of this little boy who's at a You Matter, We Need You assembly, and they're donating hair to Locks of Love, and his face is just lit up because he's part of something bigger than himself. There's other schools I talk about, Carol Dweck's work in growth mindset, and one of Carol's tools is this concept of not yet. I'm not going to judge myself by how I'm doing right now in this fixed moment, but I'm in this process of becoming. So even though I'm stumbling or failing or not getting it figured out, I'll get there. And those words, and I've used that in different ways with kids over the years, and that took on a whole new level of meaning to me. I'm about, 18 months out from being a cancer survivor, a very unfortunate family tradition. And I went through a lot over, that a year and a half ago or so. And at the time when I got my diagnosis, and I had a discussion with my sister the month before I got diagnosed, because our 34-year-old niece was having her own battle with cancer, and her mother, our sister, had her own battle with cancer twice. And so we were having that discussion, like, I don't think I have this gene. I just don't feel like it's going to be me. And then a month later, it was me. So at the time, I was doing CrossFit, and I was really working out, and I was healthier than I'd been. And then after surgery and treatment, I go back, and I'm nowhere near where I was. And it could have been really frustrating, because I remember when I first started the CrossFit journey, it was a big deal when I could, lift triple digits and then lift my weight and then lift right. I continue to grow, and then I go back to the gym and I'm back down to double digits and that. And I remembered Carol Dweck's work And I just started saying that to myself pretty much every lift, every time I went back, like, not yet. I'm not lifting 100 pounds yet. And it just kind of kept, it just really was a tremendous piece of my healing and that journey. And so from now, I think inside out, I had this experience of the power of this. And so I'm more passionate about it than ever, of being that person that gives that message to kids. So I've been in schools, and I'll say, you know what, even if all you do in your school all day long is you're the not yet person, and you do nothing but walk around and listen to how kids limit themselves, or how, we hear it as adults. Someone makes a mistake, I'm such an idiot, all this self-talk. What if you do nothing but become that person who walks around and you put your hand on their shoulder and go, not yet, but you'll get it. Not yet.
No signal.
We got signal. And so I've thrown that out, and I have had people in different schools to say, okay, I'm that person. I'm the not yet person. Like that's my thing. And so these are just kind of case studies, some ideas, but it's about just taking something that you know has power to increase connection, has a power to increase a sense of mattering, and grow and build that. So the point is, this isn't rocket science. There's a lot of science behind it, which is very cool, but it really is about becoming better humans and creating environments in which our children both feel that it's okay and it's desirable and it's possible to be better humans. So we have been rushing through a bit on this whole kind of reflect, pair, and share, and you have your two-sided sheet, and it's a tough call sometimes when we're teaching and we want to get the information and share things out, but we really want to use a good solid 10 minutes at this point, because we've done trusted adults, high expectations, resilient skills, and now involvement, for you to be pulling out that two-sided and be thinking about what strategies are you learning, what's coming up for you, what do you want to discuss, and maybe share, as you do as a table or dyad, triad, however you want to do that, of, this really is rising to the surface, or now I'm going to do this different, or, Sam, I love Sam's up front row, nodding the head, right? This got me, I was nodding my head because that. Like, what's coming up in a really practical way, because all of this is about you going back to your classrooms or schools or organizations and doing something different on Monday than you would have done had you not been here today. So we're going to take 10 minutes. We're going to float around and just kind of listen in and discuss and support, but we're just going to do a 10-minute work session here so you can start to fill out that Thrive one page.